Welcome to Primetime Muscle, friends, fans, athletes around the world. I'm Tim Wilkins, as always, joined by mega promoter and IFBB pro judge, Tarek Elgindy.
Thank you, Tim. Great to be here. Great to be here with Chris Cormier.
Chris Cormier, Hall of Fame. How are you doing? Our Gucci, our Sultan of Dubai, our Louis Vuitton Don. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing fine, Good to see you, Tarek. How you doing, brother?
So, you will notice so far we've got a very pleasant demeanor between the two of them today. Prior to our episode,
we just ate.
The producers fed them both red meat and potatoes to try to quiet them down. So guys, as we dive into today, there's so much with the Olympia coming up fast. We look back at the previous Olympias and we look at those exciting surprises, like Dorian tearing his biceps. What surprises, as you look back, Chris, you were there, what kind of surprises jump out at you?
Well, the fact, he tore it. It was still some weeks before the show, so people were wondering, is he going to compete? He also dealt with, I just spoke to him a little while ago. He was telling me the story when he was going to do the Olympia. He came down with a stomach virus, and everything he brought in, it was coming out. So he didn't want to eat anything or drink anything. Everything was just coming right out of him. So he called and he called up Peter McGuff to his room and told him to take a look at him, tell him what he thought. And he said, well, you can either win $10,000 or you can, get fined and not do the show at all. And then he was just like, no. He said Wayne DeMilius told him that maybe you shouldn't do the show. Don't come out here because I don't want anything bad to happen. Then it was Weider called him and told him, you're going to get fined if you don't do the show. And then that's when he started singing, I'm just going to come and do the show.
And did he win that year?
Yeah, he won that year, but he was going to back out of it altogether because he couldn't bring in any type of calories whatsoever towards the end.
It's not a fun way to cut up.
But also when he tore the bicep, he just kept going, all in, and he was still, had his arm wrapped up and just doing leg extensions and just working around the injury as much as possible. And it's a tough thing to do mentally also. I did the same thing. It's tough to do mentally to get ready for a show, and you have this gnawing injury, always knocking at your ego as, oh, you're not perfect, but you want to still try to compete in a
Well, that bicep tendon is not just a bicep. You got back it's affecting, you got some shoulder exercises.
And then it went to same arm, tricep the next time.
Yeah.
So same arm bicep, same arm tricep.
94 was the bicep, I think 97 was the tricep.
The tricep.
Yeah. And that knocked him out. What big surprises jump out in your mind?
So a positive and a negative. The 2009 Mr. Olympia, the Jay Cutler backstage, he looked incredible. People knew something was different. And he was a guy that they were not expecting to win because it was the rise of Phil Heath. It was Dexter Jackson, who was the current champion. And everybody was expecting a battle between those two guys. And Jay showed up at his best, in my opinion. But on the same Mr. Olympia, backstage, we got the news that Phil was not feeling well. And he ended up in 5th. You could see that his physique was not popping backstage. You could just see that, he was a little deflated. Mentally, he wasn't there. And, it's part of the sport. Sometimes you peak and you have no idea you're at your best, and sometimes, so it was very strange to see Jay coming back. It was a positive, right? And Las Vegas went crazy, but then you saw Phil backstage, and he was supposed to be the guy to battle out with Dexter, deflated. And that was the last time we saw him deflated. His physique then exploded, but it was just a last-minute surprise. Competitors, they're very vulnerable at that point, right, Chris? You're not eating that much. You can get sick very quickly. So,
and also
you're not eating a lot of balance either to get yourselves the minerals and things you need to ward off infections and such.
Yes, because what you're going to go through on stage, Tim, is the most grueling thing you're going to go through the whole year. So, you know, one to be at your best, one to be, you know, hydrated enough to be strong enough. But that also reminds me, Ronnie at the Olympia 2002 or 3, can't remember exactly which one. He felt like he couldn't really compete. Like he felt like he was, you know, so distraught and, you know, had to just sit in a tub and try to get himself together. But he was having thoughts of not competing also. But he ended up taking another victory.
Well, and we go back to Phil. I could watch this over and over. The tape of Kai flipping that hair.
Oh, he got past the hair whip. He whipped him in the eye, boy. I ever said, man, don't you whip him in the eye. Don't you whip him in the eye. Don't whip me in the eye. We're gonna be tussling out here.
Well, and then they started to tussle, and what was it? Was it Rope? Who had to separate?
Rope man. Yeah.
Had to separate the two of them. Big Steve said, spread it out, fellas.
Out.
Well, there was a point there, and talk about a surprise. There was a point there that people actually thought they were gonna scramble, and fortunately, Big Steve was very assertive on his command. I think they felt like, okay, this is not a moment I want to compromise. But, you know, you're talking about huge guys with
facing off.
Yeah, I mean, and the level of adrenaline is there. And this is the guy you hate, right? I mean, you can't deny it. And they almost, Kai was very aggressive that year, right? It was the year before, people were talking about him, and George was his coach. People were talking about him being very passive on stage. He's very philosophical, looking at the butterflies and hitting a front double biceps. And people said, well, he needs to be a little bit more aggressive. And he did come more aggressive. Not only aggressive, but he came after Phil. He wanted to elbow him out. He wanted to show him, here, I'm here to take your heart apart.
Yeah, he came from Martin Luther King to Jack the Ripper the next year. So everybody's a little distraught.
What kind of analogy is that?
He sounds like Martin Luther King when he talks.
In the history of mankind has put an analogy between Martin Luther King and Jack the Ripper. Where the hell do you get this stuff?
It just got done.
He whipped him with that hair. Yeah. He whipped him.
So one of my favorites as an MC was 2001. They moved me from an onstage podium to one of those little curtains where you're just behind just to announce the names, and they had the big O out front and the guys walking between. Yeah. Well, for the guys to know where to walk off as I'm announcing the next one, I look out and I see who's posing. I see the dehydration's gotten to him and the lights are starting to go out on him. And he's looking, where do I walk out? And I cracked the curtain way more than I needed to so he could see the light come through. Closed the curtain, yelled medic, announced, I think it was Nasser next. Whoever came out next, when I opened the curtain, he did a face plant right at my podium. And the medics, everybody jumped him and got him rehydrated. But that was a scary moment. I will tell you off air. I will tell you off air. And, yeah, it was a scary moment for me as an MC.
That's the Marine. That's the Marine talking.
That was a lot going on. You talk about MCs, like, oh, you just read the names. You got a lot going on. And when you're at the Olympia and all the pressure in the world on you is to keep this thing moving smoothly, you don't want to make a big deal for the audience at the Mandalay. So that was a pretty...
Oh, let's give a hand to Timmy here, huh?
That was a big moment.
Saving people. Clap, Chris.
I did nothing but say, I said the names. That's all I did.
MASH?
Can you clap, Chris?
You like MASH.
I'm like Radar.
Radar on MASH.
So there's always a big surprise. So this year, I'm wondering what it's going to be, if anything. Oh, we had the Hadi trying to get his visa a couple years ago.
Yeah, so a few years ago, he got his visa like 2 or 3 days before the show. And I think that was the year that he placed third. So imagine if this guy wasn't there, then you're talking about somebody else in the top 3. And that was one of the years that he won the People's Champ.
Yeah, that was the first year.
Due to a lot of restrictions on visa, you never know what's going to happen in some of these guys that come from these countries that have these restrictions. But he was able to make it. Another surprise was Sean Roden beating Phil. That was a big surprise. And when they both hit their front double biceps, I was like, that's a really good front double biceps by Sean.
Sean's been second leading up to that show a couple of times, so he was always like wondering like when is he going to get his shot, you know.
You know, going back to Hadi, it makes you wonder if at some point there isn't somebody with a thick Boston accent calling immigration going, there's a big potential bad guy coming through. His name is Mamdou El Sabah. You should probably keep him at the border for 6 more weeks.
Also, Branch Chen coming from China, he was in the classic for the category.
He placed top 5, yeah.
Yeah, he was 4th actually, but he only made it in the day before the show, and he took 4th. He had 3 or 4 days. He had to leave by Sunday morning early to get back to China. They only gave him a 3-day visa. Come in, come out, took 4th in the world.
And he has a great posing routine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And to not spill over, to not deal with all the water retention or water loss issues, that's impressive.
Yeah, Camp Cormier stable, that guy.
Just saying. A good plug. There we go. All right. Speaking of the various camps.
Look at his face.
When we come back on Primetime Muscle, we're going to be talking about some potential people making some moves up the chart this year across all divisions. We'll be right back.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
And we're back, and we're talking about the people that may be making a move up the ladder this Olympia. Some of the surprises across all divisions. And, of course, we're going to start at the top with the Open. Gentlemen.
I have to say the guys that won multiple shows are the guys that can be a threat to really attack that first call out. You look at Andrew Jack, he won 2 pro shows. I even think Hassan Mustafa, who's a guy that nobody's talking about it, maybe he can attack that first call out, but winning 2 shows and bringing that conditioning that he brought in Puerto Rico, he can, start moving up as well. I believe that those guys have won multiple shows. They are, and Blessing is another one. Blessing won 2 shows. They have proven so far that they can be really good.
Chris?
Well, I mean, I got to look at I think Derek is I was a little skeptical about the way he looked. I thought he was going to try to come too big, but now we're coming into the show. He's coming into his own, and I think he has a shot to really make some moves. I think it was a big thing about him actually getting the invite, but now I think he's going to show people that he belongs.
Here's the crazy thing about the horse analogy, fellas, because like the Kentucky Derby or the Belmont or the Preakness, you got all these horses that win their individual races to qualify for that, and then you've got 5 previous champions that don't show up until the big race. And that's hard to gauge against them because they haven't competed against each other like back in the day when you traveled the world with the top 5 and beat each other to death.
Right, and plus there's a lot of top two and 3 competitors. I mean, you got to look at Hadi, and we don't bring him up as someone that can win the show, but I mean, he's been 3rd. He's been the People's Champion a couple times. He's been 3rd a few times. I mean, if I was in the top 3 like that, I'm thinking I could win that thing at any time.
That my fix this year is not for a top 1, but a shuffle in the top 5. And I'm seeing the Mutant and Hunter shuffling their positions this year, moving up a notch or 2. The pictures leading up to this have been insane. And when it comes down to that, you got to keep talking mass versus lines versus aesthetics. But when you start combining mass, aesthetics, and lines,
Samson
Dauda.
Dude.
Okay, there's an off-brand horse right there that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, because I mean, what I'm seeing is a lot of mass, but I'm seeing a lot of separation and mass. So that right there, I think, is going to pay big dividends with the judges, because a lot of these guys that got that type of mass don't have those little cuts, don't have the little separation between the brachialis, the triceps, and the biceps, all the teres majors, minor, everything.
All you true novices, Google all those muscles he's talking about.
dorsal region, everything's showing.
Woo! 212.
That's exactly what I was going to mention. I had the opportunity of judging in Brazil, and this guy by the name of Felipe Moraes won the show there. He was not the favorite. He actually won the Olympia Amateur overall, and that was his pro debut. and he was not the favorite. There was other guys there, and he shocked me because he was big, he was cut, and he had really good lines. So if this guy displays the same physique that he displayed in this competition at the Mr. Olympia, I think he's going to get noticed. And knowing that some guys like Sean Clarita possibly going to the Open, Derek Lunsford going to the Open, we might have some really new surprises in the 212.
What? Surprise. You seen Keon?
Oh.
Do you see Keon?
Oh, yeah.
There ain't no surprise. He's showing you what's up already.
Yeah.
The guy is looking lights out already.
Yeah.
And
weeks in advance.
Yeah.
But all the things leading up to that.
Yeah, and been showing that from 6 weeks out, 7 weeks out. Striations in the quads.
Who's coaching Keon?
He's with what's the kid from Texas?
Branch? No.
He's a coach. I forgot his
That's
name.
great. He's a coach. Thank you.
40-minute show, fellas. Let's,
Yes, we'll wait for you.
asked a stupid question.
We'll wait for you.
Don't worry.
Anyway, I
It
just
ain't
wanted
about
to
the
know
coach. It ain't about the coach.
Well, of
It's
course,
who he
we had
is.
segments talking about
But
the
it's-
coach. Now you don't
not
remember
with
the
him.
name.
He's already
now
had-
you don't remember the name, and the coach's not important.
Bro, he's
media
okay.
help. All right.
He was born with
What are you
this.
talking about? You're
don't know
delusional.
that- you never competed
You're
before,
delusional.
so shut up.
You
All
don't
right. You don't know what
remember
I'm
the
talking
name of the
about.
guy.
Camp
okay.
coordinator.
Excuse
Could
me,
you imagine
can you-
Breon
can you-
Ansley,
can you-
who's your
please,
coach,
right here,
and he
right here.
doesn't mention your name?
Blue, come
Okay. America.
So-
Look.
Tarek has never competed. Don't even.
And I will show you.
I don't want to
Take-
see that
take off
one.
your shirt
I don't
right
want to see
now.
that one photo.
Bitch,
I don't want to see
take
that
off your shirt right now. Take off my shirt.
Don't call me.
And I will show you that you ain't got nothing right now, okay?
Now we playing too much.
It's about to get naked. All right, guys. Classic physique. We got a couple minutes on this mover and shaker ceremony.
That's one category. I'm going to tell you, this guy that won in Dubai and he won in Europe, Michael Dubai. Oh, now look at me. I can't remember the name.
Michael Dubai. Raise your hand.
Michael Dubal. He won 2 consecutive shows.
Super
and he's
ripped guy.
massive. He's ripped. And I think he can attack that first call out. But the first call out on the classic physique, those guys are pretty good.
I think that guy is really good. He also compete in the Arnold Classic last year. I still think he's got to refine that body. We see the striations, we get all that, but I want to see the lines in between all the striations and the mass with this guy. But I still think he's on the outside looking in with those guys. That top 5, I think, is still locked in the top 5. For me.
Men's physique, I got my first mover and shaker. Multiple show winner this year, Daniel Amons out of Texas. The conditioning was sick. I know you're going up against some big boys with Aaron Banks and Brandon Hendrickson and the other top...
Chiron, yeah.
Chiron, say it!
Go! But I think this kid is going to, if he brings the same conditioning, he's going to be hard. He's going to be top 5.
Combined with Nicholas Coe, who also won 2 consecutive shows, Buwan Chauhan, who won 3 shows, Amos is one of those guys that won 2 consecutive shows. And he beat a lot of great competitors. So it's not like he just won. He beat a lot of great competitors. He could be very dangerous. I agree with you.
What about fitness?
Fitness, here's where we get in trouble.
Well, we're going to have to do it. Let's go there. We got Ariel. I think Ariel's going to be out there, I think, but he tried to get me in trouble.
I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
He tried to get me in trouble.
You don't need any
Missy.
help. You don't need any help getting in trouble, okay?
Oh, hey.
You said a segment, a few segments ago, you said.
What'd I say?
The person that's winning the Mr. Olympia is Ariel
Because
Kadar. Don't back down right now. Don't be a bitch right now and back down, okay?
No,
then you got a message. You got a
bitches.
message from Missy Truscott, and Missy said, Missy said, I'm gonna prove you wrong, okay?
Can I get a camera one more time?
Yeah.
This is to Ole Miss. I call her Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I know you about to do your thing. I know you got the physique. Don't be mad at me, because I'm just trying to push the little buttons in the, be the little puppet master here in the fitness realm. You know what I'm saying? Just call me the puppet master. Yeah. Okay.
I think
you got a drug test. We have to drug test people in the show. We have to drug test Tim. I'm telling you right now. I'm talking to Nico today. We need to do a drug test before we start.
Bikini, I don't see any big shakeups at the top, although some great performances throughout the year. Jordan, Marine Blanquisco. I'm trying to think of the other ones that were multiple show winners that were outside of the name brands.
Jordan is a competitor that she made first call out of the Arnold. She also won 2 consecutive shows. She won the Legion, and then she went to Southern California, and she won an event there. I had a chance to shoot with Jordan Lee for Olympia TV, and man, she is an athlete. She can run, she can jump, and man, talk about a small waist. She is one of those that nobody in the industry would be surprised if she's on the first call out of the Mr. Olympia.
Yes, I like her physique, man. It's she likes to go, you know. But Jennifer Dory, with the, you know what I'm saying? If she do that,
can you explain to us what that is?
Because that's when she walks on the stage with her, when she's, Louis down and shit.
She's Louis down on stage?
Louis down, no, not on stage. But if she does something, she does it with style. So, I mean, how many shoulder shrugs can you do? It's got to be something like that.
Crystal,
anyway, I just thought I'd...
Yeah. So wellness is still so new. We've got our top in wellness.
Franciele Matos, man. Franciele Matos. She is so good. And right now, we're getting close. The Mr. Olympia is right around the corner. And we see her pictures. She kind of disappears a little bit throughout the year. She's a mom. She's a wife. She has all these commitments. So she disappears and we forget about her. But boy, is she dominant. And you see right now her latest pictures. She's looking incredible. Angela Borges is always a threat. Right? And then you have Isa Pereira, who won the Arnold Classic.
That's right.
And that's Chris's pick to win the Olympia, right, Chris?
That's my pick to win the Olympia.
All right, there you have it. We're going to wrap this segment, and hopefully this is fuel for the up-and-comers, and it's even more fuel for the people at the top that want to fight that off.
On the last leg.
We'll come back with a very interesting question for our panel, especially for Tarek, on Primetime Muscle.
People always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else. Every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, you know I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on Trifecta.
All right, headed into the Olympia, there's a lot of pressure for a lot of people, the athletes, but how much pressure is there for the judges? And of course, we are lucky to have an IFBB Pro judge. What kind of intensity starts to come onto the judges, and how far out does it start to appear?
Well, obviously the Olympia is the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. And if you're chosen to judge the Mr. Olympia, it's a huge honor.
So you're not doing it?
You know, it's a huge honor. And I've been chosen this year, the past year, the year before. Okay. So you sit there, Tim, and you know you have to execute a job. So there is a good amount of pressure because you have to do the job right. And it requires a lot of attention, and a lot of times it requires speed. I always tell young judges, the worst day of your life as a judge is when you have to test judge at the Nationals or at the USAs, because it's not only precision, but it's also speed. The Olympia, you're really making decisions that are fast, and you know, you're talking about a lot of money. You're talking about people that sacrificed their lives for that. So you gotta take it seriously. You have to be accurate, but there's also the first instinct. Sometimes you keep looking, and people start second guessing themselves. I always tell young judges, look at the competitor, see the flaws, see the advantages, see the comparisons, who wins this pose, and go with it. You have to have that conviction, that assertive behavior, which is instinctive to you, and just judge.
Who's easier to work with, Steve or Tyler?
Well, you know, I gotta tell you, it's the same thing. Judging with Sandy, with Tyler, with Steve, with Maz Ali, with Jack, with all these guys. Chris, you sit there and the judge calls the first call out.
Right.
And you have a very small amount of time to make the decisions. And once you hear front double biceps, your vision goes boo, 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 boo. And you're making notes. Okay, this guy wins. That guy is the second one on the front double biceps. This guy is the third one. And then you go, front lat spread. You make you don't even care who is, calling the call outs.
But you're doing a shorthand about each competitor. Are you putting them in numbers? Are you putting, this person is need more chest to win this pose?
Upper chest.
So you have different stages of the competition. When the competitor comes individually, you are able to pick them apart and say, okay, here's Hadi. The shoulders are overpowering the physique. Great conditioning, great muscularity, poses really well. When they come individually, you can pick them apart. When it's the comparisons, you have no time to pick them apart. All you have to do is look at them and see who wins that pose.
So as you fan out from the head judge and say, how many there's 8 or 9? How many's on the Olympia?
12 judges.
12 on the Olympia. And normally MPC shows 5 to 7.
Yeah.
So you got 12 people. How much are you able to pass a note down and go, turn them again, exchange 17 for 23? Are those notes flying?
Well, and one of the things, that's when the head judge comes into play. So when you have that first call out, and you always bring a few guys more. So you might look at 4 guys at the Mr. Olympia. One of them is going to win the Olympia. And you bring these 4 guys. But the head judge always brings an additional 2 or 3 guys because we want to compare them, right? And then you move them a lot. You compare them a lot. But in the end of the day, you already have an idea who the 3, 4 best competitors are. And the head judge doesn't need anybody to tell him, hey, can I see this one? Can I see that one? He knows to bring extra guys so everybody can see that. And, you put them on one side. You put them on one side. The judges get a look on it. And then you put both of them on the other side. And then you put both of them in the middle. Some people think that just because you're in the middle, you're going to win the show. That's a misconception.
So if you have a guy, you already know, okay, this is my guy. This is my guy. He won the show. Now I'm looking to see who's second and third.
Absolutely.
So am I going to move that top guy all the way to the end?
Absolutely.
I'm going to have 2 and 3, and then I want to switch those guys around. I want to see 4 to 5. Who's going to round out the top 5?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're making decisions. And if you have Ronnie Coleman, 2003, he's dominant, he's massive, he's conditioning, he won the show. You can clearly see he's beating everybody on every single pose. You basically have to move on to second and third. Who's going to win, second or third? Then you go to third and fourth. Then you go 7th and 8th. You have to make those decisions. And once you make those decisions, you got to keep moving, keep moving.
So as a fan, I've always wondered this. Even as an MC, I'm watching you in these shows. You pull out the top 4 or 5 and you say, all right, we know kind of who that is. But then you call out 5 through 10 and you start to wonder who the crossover is. People start getting moved around. How often do you get people from that second group that start battling their way up to the top?
Yeah, you get it a lot. So in the last Olympia, Justin was called on the...
Rodriguez?
Yeah, Justin Rodriguez. He was called and he moved up because once we started comparing him with guys that we thought were going to beat him, then we was like, Justin looks better. He needs to move up. Justin looks better. And it's consensus. The judges, they look at it and they go, yeah, he kind of looks better. And he so moves from 9th, moves to 8th. And then you get a guy that you thought he was going to be on the first call out, and he's not. So then you start looking, he doesn't look as good as those guys. So we're constantly changing. It's like front double biceps. Is Justin against Ian Valliere. Who wins this pose? Ian. Now front lat spread. Who wins this pose? Justin. Side chest. Ian. So you're making these quick decisions, and then you go, if you have any doubt, you count the poses and you say, okay, Ian Valliere won 5 poses, and Justin won 3 poses. We're going with this guy.
So who are you going with? If you got, say you got the number 1 person in the middle, who's on the left and who's on the right? How do you decide?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The head judge or even all the judges, we can say, okay, this guy is clearly the winner. There's no communication, but it doesn't matter where he is. You start looking at the second and third, and it doesn't matter the position that they are. You know, if you really look at the head judge of the Mr. Olympia, Steve Weinberger, he's going to put those guys in different positions because he wants to get a different look for all the judges.
Isn't that brutal though, Chris? As a fan, but especially as a competitor, when you're standing next to a guy, or you come out in a call out of 4 or 6, now there's no center. So now you don't know who's first. You're standing left or right. You go, is right second or is left second?
Got to go with the eye test, I guess.
Yeah, but still, when you're a fan, it's tough enough. One of the toughest things for you has got to be after the show with a 1-point decision. Like last couple women's bikini Olympias, where you got 1 point, and the scorecards come out, and you got to decide whether or not you were on the right side of history. How much pressure is that post Olympia?
I've been involved in some 1-point decisions, and you know that your vote at that point decided who was the Mr. Olympia and who wasn't. And it's the rules of the game, Tim. It's the rules of the game. There's going to be a certain number of judges. Judges have the right to disagree with each other and go with what they believe is the best athlete based on the criteria. And it is what it is. I've been involved in those decisions. You know your vote decided who won the Mr. Olympia. Is it tough? Not really. I get paid to do a job. And when you sit there, there's no compassion. It's just professionalism. The best should win.
How much pressure, Tarek, are you under when Steve looks at you? Are you like, do you need more time? You don't want to be that one that needs more time, right?
Well, yeah, you're right, Chris. As a judge, part of your job.
With those eyes, Steve, look at you with those eyes. You need to be ready
you're
to
right.
rock.
Part of being a judge is being fast. Is how fast are you in looking at the competitors and making those solid decisions? You can be the greatest judge in terms of criteria, but if you don't have the speed, you are not a good judge. You gotta have the speed, because you can't have somebody hitting a front double biceps for 30 minutes.
Here's where it gets hard for me, among the many things with speed, because when you're at an NPC show and you see 2 guys that are amazing and people just progressively drop off fast from there.
Right.
But when you're looking at 5 people that are separated potentially by a point or a body part or a pose that they hit that accentuated that's got to be just brutal happening that fast as you're picking it apart.
So, we've had competitions where it was a 1-point decision, and it really came down to one body part that was a little bit over conditioned for a competitor. She had a few lines on the hamstrings that she shouldn't. In the bikini, we wanted to have that soft. Other than that, she was just perfect. And she lost the Mr. Olympia because of that. It's part of the game. That competitor is still a good competitor, but she never came back to that, second place spot. And it is what it is. At that time, the other competitor was just a smidge better than her.
Has it ever shut off? Do you ever go to a show and you're still judging? You're not even under the panel, but you're still trying to see.
No. Chris, this is something that is very dear to me. You're a competitor. I know that in those 3 months you suffered. I know that your family suffered. I know that you were hungry. I know that you were tired. I know that you struggled. I know that you spent money. I know that everything went for you to be on that moment on stage. And for me to be there evaluating you is a very sacred thing.
So December 15th to the 18th, hopefully you'll be there joining us. If not, you'll be watching the pay-per-view, where I will be joined by the gift, Phil Heath, and a variety of the best from each of the divisions, helping break those categories down live. Tarek will be judging. Hopefully we'll all get to break some bread. You'll be backstage with clients. You'll be backstage in a number of other facets. With Rockstar. And you'll be no doubt signing autographs and taking pictures like a madman on the expo floor all day.
Come see us.
Come see us in the Primetime Muscle booth when we're there. Subscribe, definitely share with your friends who also love the sport. And
come see Nico.
And come see Nico. He'll be there. Our producer, we love him.
Guy.
And we will see you on the next Primetime Muscle, and we'll see you at the Olympia.